I've got loads of records. I'm so excited, but I'm actually just trying to fix my desk because it's broken. What's going on here, John? Yeah, back in business.
Did you have a wonky leg?
Wonky everything, mate.
This is Sheer Isolation. It's presented by Kieran Moore in Trowbridge and John Ponting in Cricklade. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is Sheer Isolation. I'm John in Cricklade and Kieran is in his loft in Trowbridge.
Hello.
Now, myself and Kieran, we had a rare occasion where we met up in the last week.
So it was a comedy show in Devizes, my first comedy show for Gary Delaney in Devizes Corn Exchange. I've worked with Gary a few times before. The venue that I previously worked at, for whatever reason, couldn't do the show. So I said, yeah, we'll do it in Devizes. It'll be great. And I did it in Devizes and it was great. And big shout out to my mum who did the door for me because I ran out of staff.
Oh, it was an absolute packed venue, wasn't it?
We sold 375, I think we sold, or 374. I think the capacity is 398. So we weren't actually that far off selling it out. But I chose not to on purpose so I can get guest list in, etc. And I'm glad I did because my God, it was so. Yes, it was an amazing night and so full.
It was rammed. Yeah, fantastic comedian. If you haven't seen Gary Delaney, obviously not for everybody, not for the innocent-minded.
No, I had a work colleague come, John, who I said it was going to be brilliant, and I thought it was brilliant. But he turned up, and he's not particularly rude, but he was rude enough to. They left at half time. She's not spoken to me since. Oh dear.
We've got a truly interesting guest lined up who's talking to us today, who is Ian Fiddes. Now, Ian is the person behind the Vinyl Daze Record Fairs. So it's basically his full-time job. He travels across South Wales, across the southwest of England, running vinyl fairs. He does one in Cirencester. He does one down in Wales. He goes to Dursley as well. So there's a few in this area, but he also covers quite a bit in Wales, quite a bit down in Cornwall. We'll be talking to him just about how he got into it. And Kieran, you have a fascinating conversation with him about what to look out for in terms of
I really enjoyed that, John.
I've taken the liberty to pick a track, Kieran, because I knew you were running late and I wasn't sure if you had time. But if you've got a track, then do spring it on me now.
I've got a track, John. I'm going to spring it on you.
Go on then, Badoing.
The track is a chap called Jack Lukeman, and the song is "The Sunset is Blue on Mars," which I'm assuming is a scientific fact, which is quite an interesting concept because our sunsets are purpley, pinky, wonderful colours, and on Mars they're blue, which I think is quite amazing. So that's an interesting concept in itself. Nevertheless, Jack Lukeman is an Irish singer-songwriter, and he's playing the Pump this weekend in Trowbridge. He regularly plays arenas in Ireland. He plays like Dublin Arena in front of 6,000 people. Big deal in Ireland. Big deal. He's like a number one artist. He'll regularly sell out the biggest venues. And in the UK, nobody knows him. So he's going to play the Village Pump next weekend. There's the poster in front of 30, 40 people. And then he's going to go to Ireland at the end of the year and play in front of 6,000. So I wanted to highlight how musicians, how they have to work, because you could be huge in your country of origin, but as soon as you go over a border, you're nothing again. You have to start from the beginning. This song is called "The Sunset is Blue on Mars," and if you like it, come along and hang out because you will be performed to by someone capable of doing massive shows and the stagecraft that goes with that in possibly the most intimate of settings. And especially if you're Irish, people would be giving their left leg to come to a show like this. So do check it out.
The sunset is blue on Mars, and angels, they wait for us beyond the stars. Our fates are written on the wings of doves. Don't break the tiny wings trying to read the words. wrapped in a Fabergé. Oh, green, red, and blue.
The Sunset is Blue on Mars. We need to fact check that. Anyway, but that is a tune by Jack Lukeman. What date is he playing in Trowbridge, Kieran?
He is playing, in fact, we're the second date on Saturday, the 21st of May. We're the unknown venue. All the other venues are massive, big, and brilliant, like Rough Trade in Bristol, or the Alban Arena in St Albans, Warwick Arts Centre, etc. We've got the Village Pump. We hold 60 people or 70 people tops. There you go. I mean, it's going to be super special. I'm really excited about it.
I can tell from how much you talk about him. I'm looking forward to. I need to look up this guy and actually have a proper listen. So okay, no product placement this week, but what we're going to do is have a chat to go over to our guest, because product placement are plenty. You talk about so many different albums in this interview. So we were talking to Ian Fiddes. Now he runs a record fair called Vinyl Daze, which tours across the south of the country. I think he visits the same venues kind of on a 4-month cycle. So it's a full-time job for him. He's just going around constantly collecting vinyl, selling it on, and basically selling records as a living. So I think it's your dream job, Kieran. I can imagine you doing that in 20 years.
Yeah, I think I probably could do it in about 20 years. Yeah. I'd be selling records from the noughties to people who grew up now who didn't buy it.
So this is a whole angle, a whole perspective that we've not covered in all the years we've been doing this show. So we thought, let's get Ian on, find out a bit more about him and what happens kind of behind the scenes, because I think we've all been, whether you're into vinyl or whatever you're into, whatever kind of bric-a-brac or art, we've all been to those fairs and you walk around and you... Personally, I do a lot of window shopping and not much actual shopping. What about yourself, Kieran? I'm very particular about what I want to buy. So yeah, I do. I like to browse. I like to sort of finger through the records and feel like I'm on my dinner break again. It's from school in 1997. So... Did your school have record fairs? What?
No. So Devizes had a record shop called PR Sound. I used to spend my dinner money on singles. Every week the singles will come out and there'd be £1 on 7-inch single. So I've got loads of Supergrass and Blur and Cooler Shaker and so on and so forth. All the indie bands from the 90s. I've got loads of 7-inch singles. So that's what I used to spend my money on.
Coming to a record fair near you in about 10 years. Okay, let's have a chat to Ian. I'll start by asking you just to explain Vinyl Daze, because I believe that you run the record fair, but it wasn't yours originally. Is that right?
No, I've taken over the record fair circuit from a guy called Simon Phillips, who retired at the end of last year. The record fairs have been running for 30 years prior to that, so it's been a successful business, which I've wanted to keep going because I was a seller at the fairs myself.
I'm assuming it's just not you who just has a big truckload of vinyl and just
I have got a big truckload of vinyl, but no, there's several dealers at each fair, so there can be small fairs with 4 or 5 dealers, or it could be 15 dealers. So it's all the sizes in between.
Where do you do these fairs? Are they all Southwest based?
Southwest and South Wales. So we go as far west as Oxford, as far east as Tenby in South Wales, up to Hereford, and then down to the end of Cornwall as well.
And is this literally your is it a passion or is this a job? You do, or is it a passionate job?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is my full-time job, but
okay.
It sort of started with it's record collecting got out of hand really. So I ended up becoming a record dealer because what else were we going to do? Yeah, that's the same for most of the dealers, I think, really.
Yeah.
So Doris, question: how many do you have?
Well, in the front room, I've got about 1,500 albums.
Are those personal albums that you listen to?
That's my own album, yeah.
Okay.
And then there's CDs, singles, all sorts. But 1,500 albums is my music collection that is regularly used.
Wow. In order to be a collector of this nature and to be a seller, presumably you've got a very broad taste in music. You can't surely just be into rock and roll or whatever.
No, I have got a very wide taste in music, and I do sell most types of music. And I also try not to be a musical snob as well. So, I don't.
So if someone turns up asking for something terrible, you're like, "Oh, certainly, sir."
I might not have that at the moment, but one of the other dealers may have.
Have you got a static base, or do you just do this? Because you're not out and about every day, are you? So what do you do on your days off?
Organising, running the fairs does take up a lot of the week. Sorting out the advertising, booking the venues, dealing with all the dealers I've got to book into the fairs, and each venue that I do, I've got 25, 26 venues, and I do each venue 3 times a year. So that's 70 or 80 days of actual fairs. So it is a full-time undertaking, really.
I was going to say, I believe the nearest one to us is Cirencester. I'm not sure if there's any more around Wiltshire, Gloucester. Have you got one in Somerset? Did I see?
We're in Wells last weekend, so we've just done that one. The following week we're off to Abergavenny and Newport, and the week after that we're doing Hereford and then Wantage.
So I think the burning question here is, how do you get stock? How do you become in possession of so much vinyl that you can sell it? And presumably once you have a collection of records to sell, how do you go through it? Presumably you must inspect every record, and then you must sort of sort them out into various genres, etc. Talk us through that process.
At my stall, it's all divided into genres. All the used vinyl is all checked for condition, and it doesn't go out unless it's excellent. So I don't sell records that are not in excellent condition. The other side of it is brand new stock. So I'll stock new releases, and I deal with most of the major distributors to stock new releases as well. So it's probably a mixture of half second-hand and half new releases.
Oh, that's interesting to know that you do new releases as well. That's really exciting.
Yeah.
We've talked a few times just about supply issues, just because the manufacturers haven't been able to produce enough vinyl to meet demand. Have you been having any issues with that?
Well, yes. I don't really want to touch on politics, but no,
that's Kieran's job.
But the wholesale price of vinyl, one of the reasons it has jumped up is Brexit.
Yeah.
Most of the majors put it up 30-40% when Brexit took hold.
Really?
So that means the prices has gone through the roof, really.
Through the roof, yeah.
And it's not just that. There's been a worldwide shortage of the lacquer that's needed to make vinyl. Allied with increased demand, the pressing plants can't cope with it. So there are delays on a lot of new releases for a combination of those reasons and the pandemic as well.
And what about footfall to your stores? Because we keep hearing about like the vinyl resurgence and how it keeps gaining in popularity. It's been gaining popularity for years and years and years now. Do you see that actually on the ground?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's been year on year. It's been growing. So I don't know if I don't think it's reached its peak yet. I mean, the numbers are still going up for physical sales of vinyl. Although one thing I have noticed is more recently, because the price of vinyl has gone up so much, CDs are coming back a bit. So a lot of people are buying CDs as well now.
So true. And very recently, I purchased the Wet Leg album on CD because everybody was clamoring for the vinyl, and I thought they're going to sell 2,000 CDs. We're probably going to sell 10,000 vinyl. So the CD is definitely going to be more of a collector's item in 10 years' time. Have you ever picked something up and gone, "That's worth a mint," or "That's a really rare find," or anything like that? Tell us the coolest stories.
Oh yeah, I've picked up loads of things. I mean, maybe 3 years I bought a big collection from a radio presenter, I think, with a load of acetates, unplayed acetates.
Wow.
So, yeah, about 70 or 80 in one hit. And coincidentally, talking about that, we did a fair in Dursley near Stroud last week.
Yeah.
And it was only a small fair. And a couple of days later, I got a message on my Facebook page from a guy in Australia asking about one of these acetates. So the reach of the fair has become beyond my expectation.
Wow, that's incredible.
But yeah, that's on its way to Sydney now. So.
Oh, very cool. And just for everybody listening, can you just explain what an acetate is as a compared to a traditional 7-inch single? It's
a sheet of metal with a very thin coating of vinyl on it. Sometimes these are unique recordings and weren't necessarily used for the final release. So it could be unavailable any other place. Because the vinyl is so thin, you can only play it half a dozen times. So you need to play it once and record it.
Wow, there you go. That's quite cool. I didn't actually know that. I didn't realize they wore out so quickly. Not
necessarily wear out, but you will start noticing sound defects if you try to play them as you would a normal record.
Wow,
so
there you go.
Be careful with your acetates.
So give me some advice, Ian. So I'm a 90s coming of age chap who likes a lot of 90s vinyl.
Yeah.
But I find them the hardest to find at fairs.
Yeah.
How do I get my favourite records on vinyl?
Well, if you're buying 90s vinyl, you need quite deep pockets.
Really?
Yeah, because most people had switched to CDs at that point. So the vinyl that was being pressed was in much lower quantities. And the demand for that is now completely outstrips the supply. So some of these records can be very expensive. So a case in point, for example, the first 2 Oasis albums, you can hardly give them away on CD, but they have vinyl, they're nice condition, 150 quid.
Oh, I've got them.
Yeah, they're in good condition. Yeah, they're worth a lot of money.
But I mean, there's still a lot that I didn't buy because I could only afford so much of my paper round money. So I prioritized what I bought. But there's a bunch of records. I'd love to like the Placebo record on vinyl or Sonic Youth record. And you like you say, you can't get them unless you're willing to spend 150 quid. And I'm not.
No, I mean, Sonic Youth, most of those have been reissued. So you can buy new pressings of Sonic Youth. And I've got a few of them in my store. So, or for a very expensive one would be from that era, Smashing Pumpkins, Melancholy, The Infinite Sadness, a triple album numbered. That's at least 500 quid now.
I'm really impressed with your knowledge, just that you can just run off particular albums from 20 years ago and know exactly what the going rate is.
Yeah.
How do you manage that? Is it everything in your head, or do you like share spreadsheets and stuff?
Discogs is very good for pricing, but some of it is in here. Something is in here. So, I mean, if you're talking about 90s vinyl, particular artists is always going to be worth money because the demand is there and they were on limited runs. So, and 90s vinyl is particularly strong at the moment.
Oh, there you go. And that's my fault because I'm trying to buy it.
Yeah.
I suppose on the flip side, there's also a lot of, let's think of a nice way of saying that, there's a lot of vinyl which nobody ever wants to buy. And you particularly, I suppose you see this in like the corner of charity shops where you always come across the same vinyl, normally from like the 60s or like things like Jive Bunny and things like that. Do you get that kind of stuff at your fairs, and how quickly can you kind of shift it out?
For whole genres, for example, like easy listening, James' last albums and things like that. You just, it's landfill stuff, really. Sometimes with those records, I will salvage the inner to as a nice polylined inner for a better record, but I just get rid of it.
Two things. Number one, in defense of those landfill records, back in the day, that was the only format. So, that's why there was so many of them printed. But also, I'm just thinking, right, what we could do is we could take those records, crush them up, and make new records. It wouldn't be virgin vinyl, but it would still be vinyl.
Well, to give an example of that, where I know that is done, Jamaican pressed records. It's mainly recycled vinyl, and the quality is terrible because I don't think they've even bothered taking the labels off. So you've got bubbles and it's just terrible.
Oh, that would be awful.
But it is a valid point. Recycling of vinyl is definitely a good thing because you can't recycle it to do anything else other than make more records. Okay, can I just say one more thing if I can get that in?
Of course.
All my fairs are advertised on my website, Vinyl Daze Record Fairs .co.uk. So if I could advertise that, that'd be great.
The final question that we like to ask all of our guests is: have you picked a track? And we have spoke about this previously because we were trying to find a radio-friendly version of this. But I was quite surprised, given all the wealth of the music that you probably see on a day-to-day basis. You actually picked a band that both myself and Kieran know really well, which is the Bristol lads from Idols.
Oh. Yes, well, the reason I picked them was because they were the last band I saw. And in fact, it's the first band I've seen since the pandemic. As I've been quite nervous about going to very crowded places. Because if I get coronavirus, then the record fairs don't happen. So,
of course.
And actually, my daughter is a big fan of Idols, so she particularly drove that we would go there. So, and they were great.
Cool. Well, we're going to play the tune "When the Lights Come On" from their new album. So we'll play that now.
Tapping at the feet seem loud. There's a girl in a whirlwind cloud.
Okay, that tune is by Idols. Really, well, we think they're big and famous. I think they're still upcoming. They're not quite hit the mainstream level yet, have they? But that track is called When the Lights Come On. It's off their new album, which is called Crawler, which I believe is out very soon on Partisan. It may be out by now. I can't remember the date of that. But yeah, if you've not heard of Idols, that's what they sound like, and check them out.
I can remember when they were on the Bristol scene as like a little band, with bands like Spectres on the record label called Howling Owl. And so they've been knocking around for, they're not like an overnight sensation like a lot of people think they are. They did do the grind at the beginning. And funnily enough, I don't know if they did play the gig in the end, and I definitely wasn't there, but we had Spectres play in Devizes at a tiny little pub, and I have a feeling that they might have been the support, but I was away on holiday, and apparently the gig was terrible because of everything. The whole thing was awful, the turnout, the venue, the setup, the crew that ran it. So if they did play, I hope they've forgotten it.
And Kieran never had a holiday again.
There you go. So true. Oh dear.
Oh. You got any news, Kieran?
No news.
No, I've got no news either. So instead, I'm just going to run through a few gigs because we're venturing now into the start of festival season proper. Our first real festival season for about 3 years. Lechlade is coming up, 27th of this month. That's one of it's. We have quite a few of these village and small town festivals where they just get a few big name acts, and then the rest of the lineup is built up of local acts, and they just make a whole family affair of it. So at Lechlade this year, you can see Boomtown Rats. That's not a tribute, that is the Boomtown Rats, and also Alexandra Burke. They're the main headliners, and there's a big long list of other acts going on there as well. So have a look. I think there's still a few tickets left for that one. On the 26th, we've got Jazz Stroud down at the Goods Shed in Stroud. So it's another jazz festival. Now, we had EVMJ on a few weeks ago talking about the one in Swindon. This is just a one-day event in Stroud. You'll have to excuse me, I'm not big on my jazz, but they've got Matthew Hulsall, Giles Peterson I'm aware of, and Ego LMA playing at the Goods Shed in Stroud.
Very cool.
I've just picked out another gig just because I love the name, and it's another maybe a band you're familiar with, Kieran. I don't know. Do you know the Red Hot Chili Pipers?
Yes, I do.
They're playing at the Bath Forum on the 27th. They look very interesting.
I'm pretty sure that Nigel from Frank Turner's band, original drummer, I think he was in them for a while before, when he was in Dive. Like, so we're literally talking 10, 15 years ago. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was them.
So if you like, I think they're known as one of the most famous bagpiping tribute bands in the world or something like that. I don't know. There can't be that many of them. But anyway, cool. They're playing it at the Bath Forum on the 27th. Nice. That's us done for another week. If you want to get in touch with us, you can email sheerisolation@gmail.com or go to our website, sheerisolation.co.uk, or find us on Spotify or Apple or Amazon or YouTube or whatever. Wherever you go to get your podcasts, we are normally there. Kieran,
I have got some news.
Oh, no, it's too late now. Can you save it till next week, yeah?
Okay. It can wait, actually, so it's fine.
Right, good. So that's us done. Thank you for listening, everybody. We will be back same time next week. I really had to think about that. And yes, weeks come. We do this weekly. We'll be back same time next week.
And it flies by.
It does. Kieran, thanks for joining me, and thanks for pedaling back as quickly as you did to join me.
Did just manage it, didn't I? That was really poetic.
It was. See you later, bud.
Take care, mate.
All right, cheers. See you later. Bye.
Bye.